Christmas.
My husband is a big fan of those, and she had a spare.
I got just another bag.
You're on. Okay, welcome to the Salem Area Mass Transit District Board of Directors meeting for July 26, 2012. Tonight we begin with public comment. We'll then have the first reading and public hearing on the revised fare structure. We'll then approve the consent calendar, which includes only June's board meeting minutes and an extension of the experimental youth pass price reduction. Our action items tonight include approval of the construction contract for the Salem-Keizer for the Keizer Transit Center and approve a contract for security services. Then have numerous reports and end the evening with an executive session to discuss the general manager's performance evaluation. Any announcements or changes to the agenda? Okay, we'll call the meeting to order, and we'll begin with Director Krebs giving us the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this is the time for public comment. Each person's comments are limited to 3 minutes, and we have no one signed up. And I think unless Randy wants to say something, we can go past that one. Next will be the first reading and public hearing for ordinance number 12-02.
Steve Dickey will present the staff report.
Good evening, members of the board and President Thompson. I'm here to present the staff report for the first reading of the proposed changes to our fare structure. As you're aware, according to ORS 267.320, fare categories and rates must be established by district ordinance, and on September 25th of 1998, the Board of Directors adopted ordinance number 97-01 to establish rate categories to impose fares or other user fees for the district's transportation services. At that time, our fare structure was established, and then for quite some time, our fares remained the same for several years until 2006, when we began to take a look at our fare structure and our fare levels. In 2006, there was the first fare increase that had occurred since the imposition of our official fare structure. At that time also, the Board of Directors directed staff to begin evaluating our fares every 2 years and to evaluate them for the needs for changes. In 2008, we conducted the evaluation and raised our fares. We also did this in 2010. In 2009, there were two major changes, the elimination of Saturday service and also the complete redesign of all of our services. The system redesign resulted in positive change and a new framework for future development. However, since that time, we've had a number of things occur. We've had both positive occurrences with the student bus pass program, but then the unfortunate demise of the program when funding was eliminated. So on February of 2012, February 23rd of 2012, the Board of Directors, as we were once again beginning this process to look at our fares, directed us to make a change to our youth fare structure to address the drop in student rides after the fare or the student bus pass program had been eliminated. As we continued with the process that we had done in 2006, 2008, and 2010, and then once again in 2012, we began to look really at more than just our pricing. We also began to look at several other things. As part of this process, we are looking at the fare structure, not just for chariots, but also for carts. We're also looking at the ability for us to use debit and credit cards to make purchases at the customer service center, at a formalization of an employer bus pass program, and the elimination of the youth fare category by including the fares for youth in the half fare category. We conducted a number of public outreach events. We received comments from a variety of members from our community. And we also took into consideration several other factors. The greater Salem-Keizer area is still greatly impacted by our poor economy. We're also trying to reduce the number of fare options to simplify the fare structure so that it's easier for our customers to understand and easier for our operators when they are receiving those fare implements presented to them. And also the elimination of the youth fare category and charge youth the same fare as reduced rates for seniors and people with disabilities will make it a simpler process. It still helps the price be lower for our students than it was before the change in February when the rate was 28. It's proposing that it would go to 20. And that is, yes, a $5 increase from where we are right now with the temporary price reduction. But this would be formalizing this as our permanent rate until we take a look at this either in 2 years or until directed by the board. We had 5 open houses throughout the community during the months of May and June, and comments received from these and other public outreach are in attachment B of your staff report. So the staff recommends that the board direct the first reading of the ordinance number 12-02 by title and set forth a public hearing from July 26th, 2012 board meeting to the August 23rd, 2012 board meeting. And during that time, we can receive citizen testimony regarding the proposed changes to the fare levels, fare structure, and fare programs as described in attachment A.
Thank you. Any questions? Doug?
Just one, sorry about that, let's get it up here. The one punch go card, I know that there's a lot of those out there right now, and if it's eliminated, are those going to be continued to be used until they are used up by people who hold them?
We will set a time period that it would actually be the one punch go card and the 10 punch cherry card. Both of those would be eliminated. There would still be the 2 punch go card, which can be turned in for a day pass. Those would still be available. We discussed this in executive staff, and the recommendation from executive staff is that we would honor those through the end of the fiscal year, and during that time inform the public that would be the final date that those implements would be good, and in the meantime encourage them to use the new structure.
Could they be traded in for something?
At this point, we feel that by allowing them to have the time period clear until June 30th of 2013, that should be more than adequate time to use up the fare structure. If we get into trading in, then it becomes much more complex in the administrative processes of what's the value of what's remaining and how do we compare that into what's available and so forth.
Okay.
It's not a real clean process at that point.
Other questions? Steve?
So our next hearing is on the end of August. What's the effective date for the fare change?
The proposed effective date would be October 1st of this year.
So you're bumping it back?
Yes.
That's okay. How are you going to promote the structure and get it out there so people know that there's going to be a change? Because I see the group that's affected most is the student population.
Yes, we will be using I don't know if
Okay.
Sadie Carney would like to speak to that, or I could speak to that, either one.
Well, I don't know if this is the appropriate time for it. But
I can assure you that from a general standpoint, we will use all of our approaches where we utilize print media, our social media, our website. We also are working with getting in contact with the schools, especially schools that are, just as we are doing right now with the route changes in West Salem.
Yeah.
We're going to be working with providing information to the schools also directly so that they can communicate that with the students.
Yeah, my only concern is that our meeting in August is after most registration is over.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So.
We
It
are
won't be
just,
effective until...
today, we're just opening the hearing, or opening the public comment period. Next month is when we'll be doing all the deliberation. Maybe this is more appropriate for next month. Kate?
Yeah. I just have a question for Steve. And when I read through the comments, there was lots of comments about bring back Saturday service, and we like West Salem, and a lot of comments on the service itself, but I didn't see so many on the rates. And Mark Connect is a person who's come here several times when we've raised the rates in the past, so it looks like some of the people that maybe were upset are okay with, I'm not seeing a lot of comments in there, complaints about the wait, the fares. Is that what you were seeing?
Yes, in fact, Mark was at one of our open houses and was very pleased to see the fare structure and what we were proposing. In the fare structure, the only increase would be to Route 1X, which has not had an increase in over 6 years. And that would be the Route 1X pass would, though, also with the increased price going from $55 to $65 and then from $2.50 to $3 cash fare. The monthly pass portion of it going from 55 to 65, in addition to that going up, would also open up the opportunity, opportunity to use that pass on all of the carts routes as well. So it would, in essence, create a universal pass that would work for carts, chariots, and 1X.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion?
I'd like to move that the board direct the first reading of ordinance number 1202 by title and set a public hearing from the July 26, 2012 board meeting to the August 23, 2012 board meeting to receive citizen testimony regarding proposed changes to the fare levels, fare structure, and fare programs as described in attached A pursuant to ORS 267.150, paragraph 3.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, I'll now read the title for the first reading. It's ordinance number 12-02, repealing ordinance number 12-01, establishing SAMDTD fare categories, rates, and establishing an effective date. Now I'll open the public hearing for any comments on the fare structure. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Seeing none, well,
Continue.
the hearing will be open, will stay open until August 23rd, so we don't need to close it. Right?
Yes.
Right.
And any written testimony we receive, we'll bring to the next.
Right. Okay. Next item, consent calendar. And that contains minutes of the June meeting and extension of the experimental fare pass reduction, price reduction.
I move that we approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded, we approve the consent calendar. Any discussion? Anybody want to remove anything? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We're just humming right along here. Action items. Approval of the construction contract for the Keizer Transit Center. And there is if there is a staff report available in the back here, if anyone wants to see it. I believe it is.
Linda, do we pass it out to board members?
Yes, board members.
Board members have it?
We have it.
Okay. Okay, Chad Fosnight, Capital Programs Projects Manager, will present the staff report.
I see that, just for anybody's edification, the page numbers on the hard copy do not match the page numbers on the pad. I've noticed. That's not meeting worthy, but
Okay.
Okay, good evening, President Thompson, members of the board. The district recently completed a 10-month design process, which has allowed us to competitively bid the construction drawings and specifications for Keizer Transit Center. Staff utilized the Oregon Procurement Information Network, or ORPIN, to release the bid documents on June 26th. This website provides general contractors, subcontractors, and plan centers across access to procurement and contracting information issued by the State of Oregon, local governments, and political subdivisions. ORPN is a preferred means for most contractors to learn about construction solicitation possibilities. In addition to ORPN, staff also advertise in the Statesman Journal, Daily Journal of Commerce, and Passenger Transport. Since federal funding is involved in this project, we advertise on a national level. There were also 4 contractors who specifically requested that they be notified when the bid documents were released. The SKT procurement specialist provided this notification as soon as the documents were live on ORPN. On July 10th, a non-mandatory pre-bid conference was held at Broadway Commons, in which 21 contractors and subcontractor firms were represented. In the meeting, staff reviewed the design process and features of the site, as well as discussed the bid schedule and requirements for the bid. A bid opening was held on July 24th. A total of 6 bids were received. From those received, there were 5 bids that were determined to be fully responsive and 1 that was deemed non-responsive. There is a potential that this contractor who was deemed non-responsive could protest the bid, at which time we will follow the district's protest policy. Based on careful review by SKT staff and Pivot Architecture representatives, it was determined that P&C Construction Company is the apparent low bidder on this solicitation and is thus deserving of the construction services contract for the Keizer Transit Center. The awarding of this construction contract takes the transit district another step forward in achieving a transit facility that will become the flagship facility of the district. With a sustainable design and successful construction process, we anticipate a project completion in June or July of 2013. Staff recommends that the board direct the general manager to enter into a contract with P&C Construction Company to provide construction services for the Keizer Transit Center.
Questions of Chad?
Hey, Chad, where is PNC located?
They're out of Portland.
Portland, Oregon?
Yes.
Other questions?
And we have received their first-tier subcontractor list, which they do have some subcontractors here in Salem. So they are pulling from local contractors.
Steve?
So was low bid the criteria for selection, or were there other criteria?
That was the sole criteria, is a little bit.
Maybe we should explain. For construction contracts, typically it's an invitation for bid process. You take the lowest responsive bidder.
Correct.
Lowest
It
qualified
was based on their bid, but
Yeah.
also that they
Respond.
correctly followed the bid documents and
Okay,
provided all
So
information.
they were responsive to what the demands are for the construction of
That's
this
correct.
site?
That's correct.
Okay.
Well, responsive to the proposal.
Yeah. After what this board has been through in the past history, I just want to make sure that we're going not with just the low bidder, but somebody that's responsive to what the needs are of that site. That's your job, right?
Yeah, they received the project specifications and drawings, and their bid response was in response to those documents.
Okay, Ron, and then Kate, and then Doug.
I know that with any kind of federal money, there's strings attached, and one of the, I think, areas you gotta fill for federal money is low bidder. Is that true on any kind of construction project?
No.
So we don't always have to take the low bid?
It depends on the type of procurement you do. In this case, it was construction contracts typically are invitation to bid, which means low bidder,
Take the low bid.
the low bid.
And,
As opposed to an RFP, which I think maybe we're thinking about with Courthouse Square, this board, as the local contract review board, approved a different procurement method, which was the bid build, right?
Design build.
Design
Design
build
build,
process, which then allows you to do an RFP, which then allows you to look at a variety of criteria as opposed to just low bid.
So low bid obviously has to include a time frame to be able to build it within the time limits we have.
In the bid documents, we stated a 315-day construction window. So their bid was to reflect that requirement from the bid documents.
I'm just thinking of the 19 or 16 people who met at the Commons, why only 6 people bid?
In fact, there was actually, through Orpin, we had 106 firms that were interested in the project. But there's various things. Maybe they had other responsibilities that they might not be able to dedicate the amount of time or staff for this project, or a lot of times some of the larger firms will see some of the smaller primary contractor firms that are interested in the project and might realize that they can't compete with those firms.
Yeah, what I heard from a couple of local contractors is that they realize it's the lowest, they take the lowest bid, and it's very difficult to make money when 100 and some contractors are bidding for a project. When
Well, also, I think, correct me, Chad, also, some of those people, the 31 people at the pre-bid were probably subcontractors who teamed up with the general contractor who was there.
Yes.
And there might have been more than one person from a
Well,
general
I'm really glad to hear
contractor.
somebody relatively local that's going to use some local subcontractors.
Mhm.
Is there any way to stipulate in the future any building that we want to use regional
No.
suppliers? We can't
No,
do
we
that?
can't do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And I was just going to make the comment, because I brought this up with Alan earlier this month, is that, yeah, we take the low bid, but they have to meet certain criterion, so financial documents and other things have to be part of it, or they wouldn't be able to be included as a bidder.
That's correct.
And Doug?
Kind of like what Kate was talking about is I could give a low bid, but I'm not qualified. I mean, how's it determined if they're qualified to build it? That's part of the whole process, right?
We required bid bonds, and eventually we'll require performance bonds once construction, the contract's in place, which will ensure that they're able to complete the work as specified. So yes, there's measures in place that make sure that they are able to complete that work.
I was sure that was true, but gotta ask.
Okay, any other questions that you
Oh,
had?
one other, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Chad, I know on the heels of the courthouse square issues and the problems we've had with that building, I'm sure we're going to go out of our way in the public relations forum to make sure that everybody understands that we're doing this building properly with the proper materials inspected and all. Correct? Is that correct?
Absolutely.
That's correct.
Yes.
We got to go out of our way to make sure that
Yeah, there,
statesman knows about it and everybody knows about it.
yeah. We'll issue a press release once there's an action taken, and we have a firm. Also, there's, as far as watching, there's an oversight component with both staff and with Pivot Architecture to oversee the construction to ensure they're meeting the requirements of the proposal.
In addition, we'll be hiring our own testing agency as part of the owner's contract. So there'll definitely be multiple measures to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Okay, other questions?
I haven't commented because I've worked with the invitation to bid process before, and I understand that it's defined in a way that they have to perform the correct way, and it will be, there's checks and balances in place so that we will get the product we expect, even though it's low bid.
Correct.
Okay, are we ready for a motion?
I move that the board authorize the general manager to enter into a contract with PNC Construction Company to provide construction services for the Keizer Transit Center in the amount not to exceed $3,522,492.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Just one question.
Yes.
When Chad was reading this, you got to one part about the one bid was non-responsive and they might dispute it, but it's not written on this, and I didn't know if that made a difference.
We received a phone call today from the firm that was originally the apparent low, because there were 3 items that they did not complete correctly on their bid form, which ultimately makes them a non-responsive bidder. Having said that, our next course of action is to go with the next apparent low, which is PNC Construction. When the first apparent low was made aware of that, they stated that there could be the potential that they will protest the bid because they feel that they are still due that contract. So there is that potential. However, we're confident that the correct steps have been followed, and we'll make sure that if that does happen, that we follow the district's policy for bid protests.
Well, you said that very well, but I must not have made myself very clear. What I mean is, we are proposing that this be put in the record, but it's a little different than what he actually said, because he continued discussing about the one bid being non-responsive. So I didn't know if it made a difference from what he said versus what's written here.
It doesn't.
Is that nothing?
Does legal counsel want to make a comment?
No, it doesn't make a difference.
It doesn't make.
Okay.
It's more, we're just keeping you updated on development since the staff report. It really has no bearing, because if they don't protest, we move on. And there's defined protest procedures and timelines that they have to follow, which they may or may not do.
If they do protest, Ben, what's our exposure on that? Can they delay it, or?
Well, yes and no. They can delay it if they go to court and get an injunction to prohibit the award of execution of the contract and proceeding with construction. But as has been mentioned, there's a process to follow first, and that is an administrative process to review and evaluate the protest and respond to the protest. And then it's up to the protester to decide whether or not they want to take it to court.
So the worst-case scenario will be we'll get a lower bid. The first bid was lower. They dropped out. We got the second bid.
Well, I would say worst-case scenario, the project is stalled if it's held up in court. Because we don't, if that happens, we don't know the outcome of the process right away.
Well, the bottom line would be they would protest that in court, and they'd still have to come back, even if it was in their favor. They would be working with us in building it. That would be really awkward.
Yeah, we'd have to wait and see the outcome of any kind of process before we can speculate.
Chad, was it just a minor paperwork error?
One of them was, but there were two other issues that were considered, in the words of our contract specialist, fatal flaws for the bid. So.
Okay, are we ready for a vote? It's been moved and seconded. Did you have anything else? Oh, okay. Been moved and seconded that we approve the motion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chad. Next is approval of the contract for security services.
Sue Quick, Director of Operations, will present the staff report.
Good evening, President Thompson and members of the board. I'm here tonight to place a recommendation in front of you to authorize the general manager to enter into a contract for private security services with G4S Security Solutions to provide security services at the Transit Mall and that surrounds Courthouse Square and other district facilities as assigned. If you remember, we talked about this in a work session maybe 5 or 6 months ago. And our goal is to help ensure the safety, security, comfort, and convenience of those who use our services. SAMTD regulates conduct on its vehicles and property. And in simple terms, customers need to show respect for fellow customers, transit employees, and for transit vehicles and facilities. For many years, as you know, the district has contracted with the Salem Police Department to provide security services. This service was primarily for the downtown transit mall located at the Courthouse Square. As the district facilitates growth and in response to the implementation of the 3C model service plan, the need for expanded security services will grow, necessitating a new service model, as Chad was just talking about with our Keizer station that will soon be built. The new security model consists of a partnership between district staff, security officers, and the Salem Police Department. The intent of the service model is to provide our customers with a consistent presence and a responsive team at the transit mall and various locations. The next paragraph, I just want to correct for you. After a recent meeting with Chief Moore, we have agreed upon language for a new contract with the Salem Police Department, and I'll be bringing that to the board probably next month. A request for proposal was issued on May 25th. We had 8 proposers, of which 7 were deemed responsive and in accordance with the RFP instructions. On page 22, you will see the criteria that we used with the proposers. Operational plan, experience and performance, cost, organization and staffing, references and interview, and the total. What I've provided you is the scores for the top 3 proposers. I didn't include all 8 or 7. It would have been a rather long list. So these are the top 3 proposers, and G4S Secure Solutions earned high scores in several categories, including operational plan, experience and performance, and organization and staffing. Because SAM-TD security needs include a customer service aspect with a diverse population, it was considered that the needs exceeded the capabilities of traditional security guards that provide security for parking lots. G4S Secure Solutions Incorporated recommended the use of their Custom Protection Officers, CPOs. As is stated in their proposal, the security supervisor and the security officer assigned to this contract are required to possess the following qualifications. And I have listed those qualifications in the staff report. Law enforcement experience, military service in the military police, former federal agency officer, and criminal justice degree. As well, the CPOs must successfully pass a pre-employment application and qualifications, and I've included those as well. Additionally, while it wasn't required in the for the proposer, G4S Secure Solutions has extensive transit experience with transit properties such as TriMet, C-Tran, LTD, and the Regional Transportation District, which is RTD, in Denver, Colorado. The committee received favorable references in regards to the professionalism of the officers assigned and their ability to form positive working relationships with the local police authorities. This was a very important aspect for our new security team. The RFP requested 80 hours of security service per week. That's 1 position classified as a supervisor and 1 position classified as an officer. This will provide us presence on our transit mall. Currently, we have the 1 transit mall around Courthouse Square through all hours of service. So we'll be consistent presence. I included the cost estimate for the supervisor and the officer, the hours per week, the billing rate, and the estimated cost per year is $89,993. The 2-year contract will begin on or about August 15th and will provide an optional yearly renewals up to 5 years. So the committee and the staff recommend that the board authorize the general manager to negotiate and enter into a contract with G4S Security Solutions for security services. Is there any questions I can answer?
Sure.
Yeah.
And they will both work for our security supervisor, is that correct?
Yes. Terry Statz, our security coordinator, will oversee the contract.
Other questions? You must have done really well.
I think I tried to cover all the questions that had come up at the work session.
Okay, is there a motion?
I move that the board authorize the general manager to negotiate and enter into a contract with G4S Security Solutions and Company for security services.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. We have no information items tonight, and now we get into reports.
Wait, I have a question.
sorry.
I didn't see it on the agenda, but if you look at page 19, there was a recommendation and a motion Did we miss the student bus
About the youth
pass?
passes?
Oh, that's in the
Consent calendar.
consent
Okay,
calendar.
so that's already, all right,
okay,
thank
okay.
you.
It was in the wrong place in the packet, I think.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe not, I don't know. Anyway, I knew it was there. Okay, reports. Let's see, there's a capital projects report that's for receive and file. Anybody need to talk about that? Board subcommittee reports. And we had no COG meeting. SCATs,
No scats.
no SCATs.
And OMPOC is in a couple of weeks.
No OMPAC, okay. MWAC, that would be Marcia. Do you know if we had an MWAC meeting?
No.
No MWAC meeting, okay. Salem River Crossing Oversight Team?
Have not had.
This is fast. isn't it? Specialized transportation, we did have a specialized transportation meeting just a couple days ago. This was the annual, they have meetings in the various parts of, Marion County and Polk County and Salem on a regular 3-month basis. And then once a year, they all come together here in our headquarters and have their annual meeting. And we had a full house. It was really, really nice to see all those folks. And what the objective of this meeting is to bring everybody up to date on what's happening in carts and Sherry Lift and the shopper shuttle and the various things that the Specialized Transportation Fund funds. And so all the projects were brought up to date. And even the travel trainers one of the travel trainers was there and gave us a report on what's happening there. And generally, the outcome of the meeting, we have more riders on these systems, more service on the street, and for about the same amount of money. Except, of course, Cherry Lift. Okay, any questions on that? Okay, we haven't had a Solutions Task Force meeting, League of Women Voters, anything from them?
No, like I said, that's getting incorporated they're getting ready to formalize the report, and then Sandra's attending the community task force meeting, so.
And Sandra was at the STA, at the Specialized Transportation Fund
Yep.
meeting too, and she had some good questions.
Yeah.
Community Task Force didn't meet. Croc Access Project?
Yeah, they're getting ready to do their public hearings and submit their proposals. So it's kind of an interesting, some of the solutions they have, they look like mini Salem River crossings, some of the solutions that wind around to get up over the railroad tracks. And that I was going to share the information, and I do want to sit down with Alan so he can see it. And Steve Dickey's wife, Counselor Dickey, is also on that committee. And we talked a lot about buses and some of the information they didn't have originally, so that was very helpful, a report that Alan and I think Steve put together. So I'll share that information later. I want to do it like by email online so people can see the 6 proposals they have. So it's good to have the pedestrian safety. I'm just not sure about the price tag, and there's lots of need for pedestrian safety. And we were driving in that area this weekend, and we saw somebody in a wheelchair on a Sunday trying to cross the Salem, well, they crossed at the Salem Parkway, I don't know how.
So this is for the audience, this is the crossing of the Salem Parkway somewhere rather safely. Are they talking about going up and over maybe?
Yeah, they're trying to get from basically in the area of Claggett Creek Middle School over to the Croc Center. And it's quite a challenge to bring it up over the freeway, up over the trains. That's a huge issue. And have it land at the Croc Center also, so it's not an easy pedestrian access. Yeah, there's a
Put in a
long
slide.
stretch. And they did do one that went underneath, but that was also equally,
That's very expensive.
Yeah.
Thanks. Any other reports on anything? No? Okay. General Manager.
Yes, just a couple items to report. If you didn't see it in the email or in today's newspaper, we were notified we're a recipient of a State of Good Repair grant for the replacement of 10 paratransit vehicles, almost $590,000. So that will help improve the age of the paratransit fleet. If you recall, when we transferred the DD 53 riders into our system. We had to reactivate some old buses and really killed the average age of our fleet. So this will allow us to improve that. We're expecting sometime in the next week the announcement for the Clean Fuels grants, and we're hoping we'll be a recipient of that also. If you recall, you approved back in January to apply for a grant for the CNG fueling station at Del Webb, and that was for $450,000. So hope to hear about that in the coming week. Tomorrow, and I know President Thompson is going to be there, we're hosting a webinar on MAP 21, which is the new federal transportation legislation. We'll be receiving a briefing on all the components and what we need to know about the changes, because there has been some significant change, especially in the consolidating of some of the what they call the boutique funding sources like JARC and New Freedom. We can find out what we need to know about that. Just want to bring up, I'd like to thank Directors Tarter and Rogers for attending the picnic Saturday. We had a great time. I think there was about 80 people at one time altogether. Lots of kids, lots of fun, lots of hamburgers and hot dogs, and an arousing round of bingo that seemed to capture the enthusiasm of everyone. So it was a great afternoon, and we had perfect weather, especially compared to last year when it was cloudy and cold. And, so a great afternoon. And then reminder, this Saturday is Chariots Night at Volcano Stadium for the Salem-Keizer Volcanoes game. Have we identified who's throwing out the first pitch?
That's me. And a practice.
Director Tarter, for the second year in a row, is throwing out the first pitch, so that should be exciting.
You're all practice.
And just as a reminder, I'll be out of the office August 15th to 17th, attending the APTA Small Operations Steering Committee's strategic planning session. That concludes my report.
Thank you. As far as my month has been a very, very quiet month, actually. Had very few meetings. I was out of state for a few days, but not very much. I do apologize for not making the picnic. I'd love to have gone, but I ended up having to drive to Kennewick for a meeting and back from Kennewick the same day, so it was only a little over 500 miles. I know Ron does that on his motorcycle all the time, but just actually a very routine July. So that's basically my report. Steve, you want to start us off?
Well, mine wasn't routine. I got dive certified in Cozumel and rescued turtles on the beach, and
cool.
got a little bit of a tan and made it back in time to go back to work. I missed the work session, so I just want to say that since I have the floor here, that I hope that when the West Salem changes come out, that are we going to have that in the West Side newspaper, big time? Oh, am I talking to you now?
Yeah.
Okay.
We had an article in today.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, in the West Salem supplement to the Statesman Journal, there was an article about the route additions and the service regularity over there, and we're hosting an open house and a number of outreach events. And today I was at the West Salem Business
Right.
Association
Exactly.
luncheon and talked with a couple people there, and I'm on their agenda for September.
Fantastic. But I was talking about the West Side newspaper. Are you going to do that?
The monthly?
Yeah.
We sent a press release to them, and then we'll probably send a follow-up one because just to keep the information in there.
Okay.
So,
Are you gonna
yeah,
print the
in the
maps?
monthly.
You're going to print the maps in it?
Next month, we'll be able to. The map is just being finalized right now by the guy who does our graphics for us, so we'll be able to host
Okay.
the completed, changed map
Deadline
as it
is
appears online.
Yeah, deadline is the 15th of August. If you can get it by then, that'd be great.
Okay,
Chris would appreciate it.
so
Thank you.
so would we.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
That's it.
Ron?
I also missed the picnic and the work session. My dad was in the hospital in Bend, so I had to attend to him. I would love to have thrown out the first pitch. However, I am attending the mayor's conference, the Oregon Mayor's Conference in Florence, Oregon this weekend with my wife, so I'll be involved in that. There seems to be enthusiasm building for the Keizer station. I've gotten a couple of calls, and I've gotten 2 calls from riders telling us that we should have the 1X pick up in Keizer and go to Wilsonville. And they asked me about that, and I, of course, don't have a plan for that yet, but that, I know a lot of people park in Keizer that commute to Portland, and it just seemed like a nice opportunity to pick up riders. Been a quiet week, or a quiet month for me also, except for the personal family issues. Just a little note, tonight through Saturday is a new program, Shakespeare in the Park at Keizer Station. Keizer
Rapids.
the amphitheater, right by Keizer Rapids, and they'll be showing Shakespeare, Macbeth, and my son is directing it.
Oh, really?
So we went last night, and it was just kind of a run-through. 85 people showed up. Weather was fantastic. Hot dogs, it's great. It's free, too. So they're passing the hat. Thank you.
Well, did we find out who made the hamburger cake at the picnic there? Was anybody claiming that? It was very popular. Had French fries next to it. Everybody. Was it?
Is that you?
Was it you?
No, we brought the ice cream.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right. Well, that was great.
Who was it?
I think it was Greg.
It was Greg.
Greg.
Thompson. Maintenance.
All right. Good job. That was very popular. And the bingo was definitely fun. And Sue kept us entertained with the set she had. That was very fun. So, yeah, I went on a lot of vacations this month. I got to go to Jackson Hole and visit with my sister, so it was very entertaining. And also, like we had brought up about the pedestrian bridge committee, but I'm glad to hear that we're going to be doing the customer survey in the fall. So,
Okay, I'll let you be last, Marcia. So, Doug?
Oh, great. It was beautiful weather and great food, I just have to say it. I brought 4 of my grandkids, ages between 1 and 7, and theoretically it was a good idea. But my plan didn't really work out because I wanted to mingle with people. I was spending half my time making sure everybody was, where to go. So I'll have to work something out differently next year because that's part of being
Strings or ropes or...
something like that, bungee cord, come back here. But part of being a director is I want to let the employees of Chariots have access to me easily by being right there. And so we'll see what happens next year. I have been looking for a way to volunteer more and found a place in my own backyard. Actually, it's the neighborhood association that I'm in. Been nominated to the board. I'm thinking I'll be elected. I mean, they're glad to have anybody just show up. So, but even if I'm not, I'm going to get much more involved in that and keep looking for opportunities.
Hey, Bob?
Well, I've had a fairly quiet month like everybody else. I attended the work session, and then I've been working out of state almost from that time until this meeting. Took a couple days down at the beach. But somebody came by my house the other day passing a petition wishing to have the bus stop reinstated at 12th and Madrona. And I gave them my business card and said, contact me and we'll work on it. And I haven't heard from them since. So I don't know if they're really interested. I had expected either I would have heard from them or they would have turned something into Chariots. And so far nothing's happened. So if there is a grassroots movement, I will be behind it and see what we can do. But basically, it's been a quiet month for me as far as Salem-Keizer Transit because I've been working out of country and out of state, and so looking for a little more work, a little more business next month.
Thanks, Bob. Marcia?
Well, it's been a busy month for me, but not necessarily transit. The area commission didn't meet. I did go to the work session, and I was at a tax reform summit up in Portland, which is, I talked to Director Thompson, President Thompson, about getting excused. But I was rather busy and did not attend the picnic. I was in charge of our church food booth at the Salem Art Fair this weekend, so it was sort of like, if I wasn't in the booth, I was sort of on call to go get food, and so I was glad to see that the picnic went off fine, but it was a major conflict for me.
Okay. Is there any other business that come before this group? Seeing none, I'm going to now put us into executive session. The governing body will meet in executive session at the end of this regular meeting to review and evaluate the performance of an officer, employee, or staff member if the person does not request an open meeting pursuant to ORS 192.660 sub 2 sub I and 192.660 sub 8. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session discussion. However, all other members of the audience will be asked to leave the room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state a general subject of the session as previously announced pursuant to ORS 192.660 sub 4 sub 5. No decisions can be made in the executive session. Final action, if necessary, will take place after the executive session. The board will return to open session. The audience will be welcomed back into the room. There will be an announcement of the final action that will take place. And if no final action is necessary, the regular meeting will be adjourned. So, see everybody, except the ones that need to be here.